Australia Cup clash between your Bentleigh Greens and the Melbourne Knights Football Club. Your lineups for tonight's game are as follows. For Melbourne Knights, number 10, Gian Albano. Number 9, Kieran Bramwell. Number 5 and captain, Ivan Franjic. Number 7, Mitch Hall. Number 19, Luca Colic. Number 18, Jack Morton. Number 11, Javaro Nepomuceno.
Well, they're two of the most famous names in Victorian football, the Bentleigh Greens and Melbourne Knights, known throughout the land for their sustained history of excellence across both local and national levels, and especially in the case of the Greens, their previous Cinderella runs in the very competition we're set to watch tonight. But, well, tonight, one of their 2023 Australia Cup runs needs to come to an end as the pair meet in their combined 6th round of the Australia Cup and also Victoria's Doherty Cup. Cup runs can sometimes be an elixir in an otherwise difficult time for a club, and that might be the case for the Greens this year. So consistently one of the powers of Victorian football across the past decade, they find themselves in the unusual position of being in a relegation battle this season, with former Newcastle Jets assistant Riccardo Marchioli drafted in mid-season to try to stem the bleeding and get this team headed in the right direction. Conversely, after adjusting to life under new coach Ben Kahn, Croatia is increasingly shaping as one of the best sides in the NPL Men's Victoria competition, if not outside the A-Leagues in general. Scoring 14 goals across their last 3 games, Kahn's side hasn't fallen to defeat since April 1, a run of 9 straight. And if they can make it 10, they will be just 1 game away from a return to the national stage of the Australian Cup for the first time since 2019. And with their bid for the national second tier advancing to the request for proposal phase, the exposure of a run on the national stages can only portend good things for their future ambitions. My name is Joey Lynch. Thank you ever so much for joining me tonight for this one, broadcast live and on location at Kingston Heath Soccer Complex across npl.tv and Facebook, as we see the Knights getting underway, but it's going to come back for an offside position. You might have heard overhead the line that's being called out. We'll go through them again in case you couldn't see it. For the hosts, starting in goal, Bon Scott, and in front of him, Alec Mills, Ben Carrigan. New signing, Stefan Barachevich, Tom Strickland, Daniel Lucente, Manas Abandelwa, Marwan Nilo, Jackson Morgan, Christos Theodorakopoulos, and Alex Baker. As see coming together there on the right flank. Free kick given away by Theodorakopoulos. For the visiting Knights in their all-white kit, Chris Oldfields is in goal, and in front of him, Josh Phelps, Corey Sewell, Ivan Franjic, who wears the armband in the centre of defence, Mitch Hoare, Steve White, Kieran Bramwell, Gian Albano, Javaro Nepomuceno, Jack Morton, and Luca Colic. As it is the Curaçao international Nepomuceno, who plays the ball back central from his position on the right wing, gets it back. Franjic, Knights under Ben Kahn, having adjusted to his stylings, now one of the best passing sides in Victorian football. In fact, no team knocks the ball around more than the Knights, and they are the second most accurate passing side in the competition, trailing only high-flying Avondale. And Avondale, who, despite their success in the league, were bundled out of the Cup in its 6th round last week, falling to a 1-0 defeat against Heidelberg United. So there will be no return to the national stage for the Avengers. Meanwhile, these two sides doing battle. Looking to move to within 1 game of the round of 32. Albano out there, Gian Albano on the left flank for the Knights. Bramwell occupying the middle. Nepomuceno on the right. Has been a free scoring attacking lineup for the Knights. Scored 31 goals thus far in 14 games of the NPL Men's Victoria season. 4-1 winners against St Albans on the weekend. Long ball forward from Phelps over the top. Keeper's calm. Collision. Penalty. Bon Scott has given away the penalty. 3 minutes into this game. Melbourne Knights, golden opportunity to open the score in the long ball forward from Phelps. Bon Scott, well, he's been a hero in this competition for a variety of clubs, but on this occasion, maybe an early villain. As Bramwell giving chase, he's still down, will require treatment. Has 6 goals thus far in the NPL Men's Victoria competition. Equal leader of this side with Gian Albano, who looks like will be the one entrusted to take this. Kieran Bramwell getting to his feet unassisted. He'll have to walk off as the trainer has come out, but imagine he'll be all right to continue. Meanwhile, though, it will be Gian Albano to take. Bon Scott in goal. The West Australian import going up against the Queensland import here in the Victorian preliminary stages of the Australia Cup. Here we go. Gian Albano, Bon Scott. No mistake there from Gian Albano. 1-0, 5th minute of the game. The Knights into the ascendancy earlier. The exact start that Coach Ben Cohen would have wanted. Claps of appreciation for the ball forward from Josh Phelps. And as several fans still making their way into the ground here at Kingston Heath Soccer Complex in Melbourne's southeast. It's a long way from Sunshine and Knights Stadium. And as they make their way into the grounds, any of those Knights fans that have made the drive, their side has a 1-0 lead. Throw and taken short. Nepomuceno trying to turn it inside. He's surrounded. Bramwell, who's made his way back onto the pitch. College just can't bustle his way through. Mitch Hoare getting up to apply the press. Former Bentleigh Greens player. Theodore Akopoulos can't retain possession. Knights win it back. Nepomuceno slick into play. Showing the ball to Alec Mills and then trying to turn on the Jets towards the byline, but the defender with him all the way and puts it out for what will look to be a throw-in deep on that attacking right flank. Ball comes back out to Ivan Franjic. Morton trying to play it forward and finding Luka Kolic, but Mills again. Franjic close down by the Bentleigh Greens. Nilo. And Abendel were applying the pressure, as is Nilo, as Phelps and Franjic, the two centre-backs for the Knights, trying to just work something out. And Franjic, of course, needs no introduction. One of the most well-credentialed players to ever play in the NPL Men's Victoria competition. World Cup Socceroo, member of that famous Raw Salona side. That one's headed back initially by Alex Baker, but the Knights are going to retain possession. Hoare. Onto Albano on the left. Nice overlapping run. Ball in, looking for Nepomuceno at the back post. Lucente's clearance is indifferent. Guevara on Nepomuceno. One way and then the other. Back inside on that left peg. Ball over the top. Carrigan can't get a touch on it, but blocks off the follow-up cross. Strickland. He loses the ball, but wins it back. Lucente, bit of space to operate in on the left flank. Wanted the cut back to Neilo. Didn't come off, but it comes to him now and then splays it to nobody really in particular. Manas Abandelwa maybe in the vicinity, but far too much mustard on that. Chilly evening here in Melbourne Southeast, Kingston Heath Soccer Complex, as the fans just about have all made their way in now. Puffer jackets, beanies and gloves aplenty. Javara Nevo-Maceno on the ball now. Mentioned from the Caribbean, Curaçao, wonder what he makes of the weather. Well, he's probably not too bad, given that he's also had stints in the Romanian and Bulgarian leagues. Corey Sewell. Well, turns and wanted to find Albano on that left flank, but far too much mustard on the ball. You can already see the Knights getting set up in their defensive shape. All of their players just creating a cocoon around the greens. And they've immediately forced a turnover as a result. Nepo-Maceno. Ends it back inside. Hoare out to Albano. Low ball across the face and Mills. Important intervention to put it out for a corner kick. Really, all Melbourne Knights earlier. They are leading 1-0 thanks to a Gian Albano penalty converted after a foul on Kieran Bramwell. As Javara Nepo-Maceno goes across to take this one, will be an out-swinging left-footed effort. Conga line at the top of the box. Makes way for the runs, but it goes towards the near post. And, well, Phelps in the vicinity for the Knights, but Bon Scott claims. Carrigan now. As the Greens get set up in their back five. Lucente dances past one challenge. Nilo, well, he just let it run, and that's going to result in a turnover. Corey Sewell now for the Knights, hoping to do better than his last pass. There you go, well done. Retaining possession, Ivan Franjic. That's a Morton on the right. Morton looking to play. That's a fantastic ball. Javara Nepo-Maceno in space, and then under pressure from Lucente, fluffs his lines. Really, the ball there from Jake Morton deserves something better. Perfectly weighted and bending back inside down that right flank. Jackson Morgan turns and faces the Knights' goal, but another immediate turnover. Ball over the top. Nepo-Maceno goes back to collect. Mills in his face. Time and space for White. He switches play across now. Albano looking for the byline and the ball back. Blocked away. Corner forthcoming. Once again, that height for the Knights. All assembled in a line, making then the runs. Good defensive header initially from the Greens. And then the ball lazily trickles out for a goal kick. I think it was the new signing, Bercevic, that had that initial defensive header. This is first game for the Greens, I believe, just coming across. The 21-year-old centre-back from FC Bulleen Lions. Has been training, in fact, with Bentleigh Greens for the past month, but registration windows being what they are, only just able to start playing for them. Spent 11 years with Bulleen before making the switch out to Kingston Heath. Morton put under pressure from Lucente. Well, probably the right idea there from Mitchell Hall, looking to just slide it in behind. Too much on it. But the Knights, as they have been doing throughout this contest, immediately win the ball back. White across for Sewell. Strickland closing him down, so he goes long. Lachente, diminutive, but he gets the header away. Theodore Akopoulos surrounded, had to go back to Mills. Jackson Morgan. Greens trying to work their way out to Lachente on the left. And his touch is a poor one, and puts himself under pressure. And he'll win it, but have to go backwards. Mills to Morgan. To Brecevic. Carrigan. Ball forward in the Nilo direction, but it goes behind him. Sewell has Albano in front to his left. Bramwell made the run, which was ignored. In the end, the Knights will have to make do with a throw in there, just close to the Bentleigh Greens dugout. Both sets of coaching staff sat down on their Bunnings chairs, watching these early stages unfold. 15 minutes gone. Knights leading 1-0. They send another ball in. Lachente's there. Nepomuceno was lurking. So the clearance had to be an effective one. Well, Strickland's thought he kept it in. And he's going to argue the case over it, but won't be heated. Throw into the Knights. Greens win the throw-in, but again, immediately swarmed. Brecevic goes back to Scott. Mills does well to round one challenge. Lachente immediately placed under pressure. Mills is going to have to do well again and opts for the safest option, heading back to Bon Scott, who immediately recycles possession to the right with Carrigan. Baker. Inside to Theodore Akopoulos. Morgan. Bentleigh had to come back and claim. Alec Mills doesn't like what he sees in front of him. Goes back to Brecevic. Carrigan. All forward. Couldn't find a teammate. It's going to fall for the Knights. Albano. Through to College. The Knights coming forward in numbers, but not clean in possession. Enables Lachente to steal it away. Morgan. Theodore Akopoulos just trying to play it in behind for Nilo. He was going to give chase gamefully. Probably forced Chris Oldfield in what has been a rare touch to move quicker than he wanted, and that's excellently done. Bentleigh winning it back for the Greens. Lachente. And that'll be frustrating for Coach Ricardo Marchioli in the Greens dugout, forcing a high turnover. Only to not even make a penalty area entrance in the end as he stands up and begins pacing in the Greens dugout, watching on as Albano sends it in. Bramwell was at last off the West Australian. It was. Goal kick. Kieran Bramwell doing very well in his first season in Victoria, having signed from Perth Glory. actually leads the league in shots attempted thus far. Meanwhile, Albano dreaming inside. Shot took a touch, and in the end, it was a touch off a Greens defender. Will be a throw-in. Well, the Knights, not often that you see a side actually surrendering yardage whenever they win a throw-in. Normally they're stealing it, but on that occasion the Knights wanted to open it up before being forced to take it right by the flag. Locks them into the corner. Still going to try to find a way out. Morton to Hoare. Greens in front of him. But he's able to get it out to Sewell, and then an effort from range was hopeful from Steve White. But he did hit it well, and Bon Scott leaps to make the claim, the double-handed claim, a strong mark in the end. But the Greens, yet again, unable to get out of their own half. They'll be given a favour on that occasion, though, by the Knights. Albano and Bramwell unable to combine. Bentleigh. 3 or 4 players from the Knights in the vicinity forcing a turnover. Just maintaining their cool as Franjic surveys the scene in front of him, and he's going to play it long in the direction of Nepomuceno. Lucente, defensive header. Knights grab the second ball. Morton. Back to Franjic. Now there's a lot of space out here for College. He'll play it central. Gerardo Nepomuceno. Back to Morton. Patience from the visitors. Hoare. Back to White. Nepomuceno feints the ball in. Darts inside. Wants Albano. Can he keep it in? He can. And in the end, he was looking for goal. But it has gone out for a goal kick. But patience displayed there by the Melbourne Knights. Multiple goals this season of 10 or more passes in the build-up from the Melbourne Knights. They lead the NPL Men's at Victoria competition in that statistic. Franjic getting a glancing header on it, which will send it back to the veteran Chris Oldfield in the Knights' goal. But they're faffing around with it, forcing the turnover. Bentleigh. Morton breathing a sigh of relief as Franjic clears, but the Greens keep coming until they're not. Goal kick. French's ball is to nobody in particular. Baker takes the throw in for the Greens. Carrigan plays it forward in a Theodorakopoulos direction. He can't bring it down. Mills underneath it. First time ball back in. Theodorakopoulos can have another go. Wanted Bentleigh. Couldn't find him, but he's done very well to just battle with it and make it difficult for Phelps. And that means that Strickland gets the ball back for the Greens. Phelps gets in the way. Closed down by Nilo. Bentleigh was there as well, and Oldfield says enough of this short passing and possession anywhere but here. Appeals for a free kick by the Greens. Heated. Set piece opportunity. You can see immediately they're going to adjust and get some bodies forward. Baker moving up there. Stefan Brecevic as well, the new signing. You see a tall lad wearing the number 6 on his back. Ben Carrigan, who scored his first league goal for the Greens in their win over North Geelong on the weekend. He's come forward as well. Theodorakopoulos lurks at the back of the pack. Runs come. And in the end, unable to be clean with the delivery was Strickland's. And it ends up being naught but a Knights goal kick. But a few turnovers forced in these past few exchanges by the Greens, getting a chance to display their pressing credentials. College. Morton made the overlap, but Bentleigh getting a boot in. These two teams, the Knights and the Greens, under Ben Carn and Ricardo Marchioli, try to play the ball around, try to press. Baracevic puts it out. Morton. Frenic. Phelps. Oof. Sewell had to do well there. Not panic as he was closed down. Did enough to ensure the Knights retained possession. Nepomuceno. Trying to combine with College. Hoare did well to keep play alive. Got it to White, who wanted Albano. He'll collect the defensive header. Sewell out there on the left. Ricochets back, appeals for a handball, was inadvertent. The Greens will have to make do with a throw-in. Morgan trying to combine with Baker, but there's so many Knights players around the ball, he'll do well to just ensure that it's his side that comes up with a throw-in. Nilo goes down. Ball over the top, foot race is on. Somewhat similar circumstances to how we got the Knights penalty, but this time Bon Scott's cleaner. But meanwhile, so we do have a player down for the Bentleigh Greens. I think it is Moa Nilo over there on the flank. Won't require the services of the trainer. Just a bit of a coming together on nights such as these. In the biting cold, it always stings just that little bit extra. Drop ball. And we'll get going again with play at the feet of Scott. Bon Scott, who sends it out to Ben Carrigan. Jackson Morgan. Brecevic to Mills. Invites a teammate forward. Instead, he's going to go all the way up the other end of the pitch. Bentleigh, he'll lose the ball to Hoare. Albano tried to beat Carrigan for pace. Didn't come off. Bentleigh trying to combine with Strickland. Theodorakopoulos cleans up. Baker. Carrigan makes the overlap. Strickland. Morgan had to be quick and clean. Mills. Long diag in the Baker direction. Headed away by Corey Sewell. Albano. Strickland's pressuring him. Hoare wins the free kick. White sends it back to Frenic. Phelps goes long. Corey Sewell's come all the way up from left back. So numbers advantage potentially for the Knights if they can get forward quickly. Corey Sewell one way and then the other. Sent in the Brumwell direction. Cleared by the Greens. Strickland wants Neilo. Phelps gets in the way. Knights throw in. Brumwell, edge of the penalty area, inside for Albino. We will have a ping from those sort of areas, but the Greens do well to close him down. Sewell sets Morton a task. Theodorakopoulos, well, applied the pressure, got beaten by the back heel. Nepomuceno, tricky footwork to face the right way, combining with Hoare. Morton trying to work the play with White, just able to recover. Greens coming up with it now. Can they work the way out of this sea of bodies? Mills had to just be quick. Morgan sends it back to Scott, boot through it. Neilo knocks it on, but there's nobody in the vicinity, so he'll give chase. Oldfield watches it on his boot before sending it across to Josh Phelps. Albino wanted the overlapping run of Corey Sewell. And the left back did get a foot in to make the challenge and give away the throw in, but immediately won back by Hoare. Strong challenge, but it's going to fall again for the Knights. Nepomuceno twisting and turning, laying it off. Luka College had to slide out and just stretch out to get the shot in, and it's claimed by Scott. Lucente. This game being played at a rapid pace. Advantage initially played before it is brought back. Greens free kick taken quickly. Mills. Brechovic out to Carrigan. Morgan closed down by Hoare. College gets onto Brechovic. High ball over the top. Abandelwa is there. So is Neilo, but the Knights just able to get that important boot in. Sewell closed down by Strickland. Looking for Bramwell over the top. Carrigan comes up with it. Greens looking to head back to the national stages for the second straight year. Knights looking to get there for the first time since 2019. Of course, looking at these two sides, it is the Knights with the richer history overall when it comes to national titles and success. Knights trophy cabinet filled with NSL titles and other such trophies, but it is the Greens, the more successful Australia Cup side, on multiple occasions knocking off A-League men opposition and making the semi-finals of the tournament. Of course, those semi-final appearances coming under the great Johnny Anastasiadis. Turnover, College winning it, getting it to Nepomuceno. And he's going to get, well, knocked over by Theodorakopoulos. And Christos Theodorakopoulos will go into the book. He'll have to be on his best behaviour. I bet the Greens already missing tonight Mario Basia after he was sent off in their win over North Geelong Warriors on the weekend. That was a very important win for the Greens, 2-1 at Elko Park. It actually took them out of the relegation zone for the first time effectively all season, but losing their Argentinian midfielder in the process. They certainly could have used him tonight against this Knights side. As White ambles away, it will be Nepomuceno to take. Curling ball inside. Scott makes the claim. Theodorakopoulos does well, gets it to Lucente. Sets up Bentleigh a bit of a chase, but he's up to the task. Defended by Hoare. High ball in, headed away by Phelps. Bramwell trying to keep play alive, as is Albano. In the end they can't, and it will be a Bentleigh Greens throw-in on that right flank. Greens were under siege early on, and there's still a bit of pressure, but they've certainly been able to at least stem the early tide of the Knights and start creating a few chances of their own, albeit Oldfield has still not had much to do in that Knights goal. As Abendella wanted his right wing back Baker, but Alex Baker really no hope of chasing that one down. Heck of a story for Alex Baker, an ever-present figure in this Bentleigh Greens side. Former Western United prospect, was recruited out of Ballarat. Oh, he's recently spent some time in the Icelandic second division. Helped to get Þróttur Reykjavik promoted before coming back and signing with the Bentleigh Greens. As this is a good press from the Greens, putting the Knights under some level of duress. But it looks like they are up to the task, as they've gotten the ball out now and the foot race is on. Bramwell working against Brecevic. The newly signed defender does well to get it to Carrigan, who's going to try to work with Baker to send something in the Nilo direction. Greens clear their lines as they'll have a throw in there right in front of the Knights dugout. Strickland, Hoare at his back. Peel goes up from the Knights dugout for a throw-in, and they're rewarded for their cries. Score remains as we head into the final 10 minutes of regulation. Melbourne Knights 1, Bentleigh Greens 0. Gian Albano's 4th minute penalty. The difference, that one won by Kieran Bramwell. The ball is played in, and it wouldn't have counted. And Nepomuceno's falling header found the net, as it was offside in the build-up. Mills, close down by College. Twisting and turning in hope to find an option. Gets it to Theodorakopoulos, although he's closed down by Hoare. Does well to spread the play across to Carrigan. Puts it in front of Baker. Albano closing down the angles, so he goes back to Carrigan. Good switch of play to Lucente. Had to head it to keep it in. And then Morton putting the ball out. Carrigan, former Melbourne Victory player. Brecevic going on a bit of an adventure from his centre-back position. Morgan dropping in to provide cover, gets the ball and slides it across to Carrigan, who now just waits for the play to develop before going backwards. Nice bit of combination from the Greens to beat the early press. Mills now. He's going to go himself. Played across, but it was offside. It will be coming back. Baker just advancing forward from his position at right wing back. Unable to just time that run, but it was good vision. The two defenders combining. Sewell playing it inside. Bono attempted the tricky overlap. Didn't work on either occasion. Theodorakopoulos couldn't be clean in possession, was swarmed. And in the end, Morgan, bit to his chagrin as well as Theodorakopoulos's, but gives away the free kick. So the Knights have an opportunity to clear their lines and shift the phase of play into the Greens side of the pitch. Just under 6 minutes of regulation remaining. Gian Albano's very early penalty. Still the difference between the two sides. Nepomuceno's not going to be able to keep that one in. Mills. Back to Brecevic. Scott puts his foot on it, takes a pausa. And the Greens eventually just go long to nobody in particular, and it's a rather comfortable option for Phelps to just head the ball back to his goalkeeper. Now Sewell. He'll hoof it long as well. Albano's going to give chase against Carrigan. At last coming off against Corey Sewell. Back again at the Knights. Well-travelled player. In fact, was with the Bentleigh Greens last season. One of a number of players that departed after the exit of Nick Tolios. Following the conclusion of the last campaign. Nilo, recruited from Langwarrin to Lucente. Back to Theodorakopoulos. Morgan. Out to Baker on the right. High ball in. Nilo in the vicinity. So's Lucente back inside. White with a bit of composure to get it to Phelps, and then Phelps sends it out. Meanwhile, behind play, we've got a Knights player down on the turf. Is that Ivan Franic? Can't see the Knights captain ambling around, so it just might be the veteran. Well, Franic now back to his feet. He's got just under 4 minutes of regulation, plus whatever added time we have to get through before he can head down into the dressing rooms at half-time, get a bit of treatment. Knights options on the bench. Well, there's a distinct difference in the level of pedigree and experience, I guess, between the two sides' benches. Bentleigh Greens carrying a number of injuries and players unavailable tonight. The Knights can call upon, well, Jacob Weissman's the backup goalkeeper. And they've got Anthony Giselle, Philippe Sanchez, Mohamed Sumayoro and Trevor Semakula as outfielders that can come on. A lot of attacking talent there. With the Greens, who as they carry the ball forward through Morgan to Nilo, round the corner, and first real save of the game that Oldfield has had to make. Bentleigh Greens bench, they have Benjamin McCauley as the backup goalkeeper, and then Maseo Jones, Gavin O'Reilly, Mitch Rook and Josh Jackson. So a few younger players in there, not quite the same pedigree as your Sumayoros, Giselles or Semakulas. Morgan does well to just keep play alive, and the Greens are going to break. Lucente, Nilo, the last man forward. Joined now by Theodorakopoulos in the centre. Neither can be found as the Greens go back. They'll reset. Try to pull the Knights out of this defensive 4-4-2 shape. Mills allowed to come forward. Sent it central to Strickland to get to Lucente. Still going, shooting blocked away. It's going to fall for Bentleigh. Off the post and then Nilo. The ball came upon him in a flash and he couldn't react in time. The left-footed effort splaying off his boot and going wide. The finest opportunity the Greens have had tonight. The upright saving the Melbourne Knights 1-0 lead. And then the follow-up effort, well, that is going to be something that Moan Nilo is going to be thinking about for a few days, no doubt. Can they use that momentum just before half-time? Oldfield steaming out of his penalty area. Big boot on it. Morgan jostling for position. Gets a head on it. Corey Sewell coming up. Ball knocked forward. Brecevic just sends her into touch. Last 20 seconds of regulation going off the scoreboard here at Kingston Heath Soccer Complex. Here come the Knights once more. Sliding challenge. It was a fair one. Hoare sends it across to Morton. Inside to White. Franjic, who looks to have shaken off that knock. Greens pressing well. Bit of momentum with the hosts as we tick down towards the end of this first half. 1 minute of added time goes up on the fourth officials board. So not a lot of added time for the Greens to work with. Mills closed down by College. Couldn't find an option. White. Franjic, Bentleigh trying to close it down for the Greens. Knights just send it away. Carrigan. That will likely be all she wrote in this opening stanza. Mills. Lucente keeps it in. Bentleigh. And that will go out for a throw-in. And half-time is signalled for at Kingston Heath Soccer Complex here in Melbourne Southeast. And the score after 45 minutes of play is the Bentleigh Greens 0, Melbourne Knights 1. The visitors taking the lead in just the 4th minute of the game when a long ball forward from Josh Phelps was charged down by Kieran Bramwell, only for him to be cleaned up by Bon Scott in the Greens goal. Albano stepping up and putting it into the bottom corner. It was an early period of domination by Croatia. Their press and possession play giving the Bentleigh Greens fits, but they were able to hold out. And as the half ticked on, Riccardo Marchioli's side getting a little bit more into it, and then indeed perhaps by the end of the opening stanza really beginning to ask a few questions of the Knights' defence. But that was the opening stanza. We'll be back with you for all the second half action from Kingston Heath Soccer Complex on NPL.tv and the various Facebook pages you might be watching us on. Be sure to join us for that second 45 minutes.
night is Black E71. Once again, Black E71.
Well,
E for elephant, 71. Please collect your prize after the game at the canteen with your winning ticket. Thank you.
well, congratulations to whoever has just won the raffle, Black E71. Used to be a bottle of Johnny Walker that the Greens gave out as a raffle prize. I'm not sure what it is these days, but regardless, they can collect that after the conclusion of this Australia Cup fixture, round 6 of preliminary qualifying here in Victoria. Thank you ever so much for joining us here on npl.tv or any of the Facebook pages it is being streamed on. My name is Joey Lynch. And if you are just joining us, it is the hosts, the Bentleigh Greens, in a 1-0 hole. Gianna Albano's very early penalty, putting the Knights ahead in what was a dominant opening. But the Greens, who are coming forward now through Alec Mills, have had their own chances. Vicente through to Stricklands. Could we have another one? Bentleigh dragging it back in. Nilo can't go back and collect. But the Greens will retain possession. Baker. Morgan sends it in. Can have another go. Back out to Brecevic. Mills. Nilo hitting the post. Bentleigh hitting the post just before half-time for the Greens. And then Nilo displaying his attempted rebound wide. Their best chance. And Coach Riccardo Marchioli for the Greens, no doubt telling them during the halftime break to build upon that, and they've certainly come out with some initiative, retaining possession, knocking it around. They've gone all the way back to Bon Scott in the Greens' goal. He sends it long in the Lucente direction. The left wing back heads it central, but that allows the Knights to claim. White, although he's immediately stripped. Bentleigh sliding it through for Nilo. Little back heel for Lucente. Cut back. Strickland is there. Headed away. And it will be out for a Bentleigh Greens throw-in. Deep on their attacking left flank. Trying to find their way back into this one. Strickland can't hold his feet. Allows Hoare to come up with it. And, well, there we go. The Knights, they do like to pass the ball around and retain possession, but on that occasion, just discretion, the better part of valour, and the Greens can load up once more. Mills now. Long ball forward. Franjic getting in the way. And he and Nilo fly for it, and I believe that one, yes, will be a free kick against the Bentleigh Greens, number 15. He's just going to argue the case a little bit. I don't think too much complaints can be had on that one. As Franjic gets to his feet. Did go down, requiring, well, he didn't require treatment, but he certainly was a very sore character late on in that first half. About the 41st minute he went down. Meanwhile, well, that one will come back. Javaro Nepomuceno in an offside position when the ball was delivered. The Curaçaoan international. Alec Mills jogs over to the spot of the infringement and then turns tail and sends it to Scott. No changes appear to have been made at the halftime break by either side. One imagines we'll see a few in this second stanza, particularly from the Knights. Have some firepower on their bench. Here's a man with plenty of fire in his own boots, Gian Albano, who decides to send that one back. Phelps to White, Steve White. Sewell. Ivan Franjic surveys the scene before him and then decides to play it back to his centre-back partner. White. Headed clear by Carrigan, but only as far as Albano. Takes the ball around Baker, but in doing so puts the ball out for a throw-in. Well, Mills was closed down by Nepomuceno, so his attempted flick deflected away. It's going to enable Knights to get numbers around this throw. When we saw in the first stanza, several turnovers that came from these sort of situations as the Knights got numbers around the ball. Here we go again, Albano. Trying to combine with Bramwell, who won the penalty that Albano converted in that first half. Bit of a shove from Franjic, no free kick. Sewell now. Albano. Marshalled by Baker. Albano still on the ball. Sends it to Hoare, Mitch Hoare. Over Corey Sewell, but the left back for the Knights unable to keep it in, and it will be a goal kick for the Bentleigh Greens. Taken short to Carrigan. Theodorakopoulos turns, drives forward. Corey Sewell's followed him from his position at left back. Still Theodorakopoulos out to Lucente on the left, but after all that effort to run the ball forward, Christos Theodorakopoulos is, well, screaming to the heavens in frustration as he just put too much weight behind that pass, and it's a goal kick. Little layoff from Oldfield to Phelps. Nepomuceno. Back to White, who gets it to Hoare. Driving forward. Oh, the Knights ball in towards the back post. Baker. Did he get a touch on that to keep it alive? And then, well, the flag eventually comes. That was dangerous there from the Knights. Mills to Lucente, Abendelwa. Nilo is offside. Marwan Nilo just unable to time his run. The hosts' dugout didn't appreciate it. Carlo Marchioli, well, in enthusiastic discussions with the fourth official before he heads back to the Bunnings chair to take his seat. Ben Kahn is up and about, yelling instructions to his charges before he too heads for his plastic throne. Franjic wants Albano. Baker came up to contest. Foot race. Poach clear. Green's come up with the loose ball. Strickland ignores Lucente's overlap. Goes back to Jackson Morgan. Carrigan. Morgan sends it out to Baker, the West Australian, to the Western Victorian. Lucente beats the pressure. Loose ball, Albano dropping deep, collects, Hoare. Franjic kept his cool in the face of Lucente. Ball over the top, Nepomuceno is offside. Assistant let play develop before raising that flag once Became apparent Nepomuceno was going to claim. Now Bentleigh turns it over to Mitch Hoare. Phelps close down, just snakes it through to College. Morton sends it clear in Nepomuceno direction. He's onside this time, working against Mills. Assistant waved for a free kick. Advantage played. Ball in behind. Bramwell wanted College in the middle, poked away for a corner. Looks like the Greens are preparing a substitution, so we'll keep an eye on that one. Meanwhile, though, going to get a corner here. Knights have put their tall timber on the two posts. It's College, Frenic and Sewell near the penalty spot. High ball in. Frenic got a head on it. Couldn't direct it inside of that post as he fell backwards. Gente does well to beat the first man. Can't beat the second. And it's adjudged to have last come off the Bentleigh left wing back. So Carrigan, Albano coming up to pressure him. Gets it back. Gente back for Carrigan. Dispossessed. Here come the Melbourne Knights. Offside. And Chris Oldfield in the Knights goal with the helpful advice to stay on side. As the Knights are infringed again. That one absolutely hoofed out of there by the Greens, but Hev tennis arises. Or eventually comes down for Nilo. Baker looking for Lachente. It's not going to reach him. But Morton can't do anything except put it out. Carrigan. Quick head check. Checks where Albano is before he just tries to send it back up that left flank, but he can't find a teammate. Meanwhile, the Greens have made that change. Substitution as well. Mitch Rook has entered the fray. And he's come on for Theodorakopoulos, Christos Theodorakopoulos, who was on a yellow card. Makes way just before the hour mark for Mitch Rook. Signed with the Greens from northern New South Wales side, Lambton Jaffers. It's Nilo. Wanted Baker. Not too convincing with the initial attempted clearance with the Knights. The second one gets a bit more territory. Carrigan is going to keep it in. Strickland. That's a Baker. Amendola gives chase. Phelps bundles him over. Fairly. The roar immediately went up from the Greens fans behind the fence. No dice. Would have been a free kick, I think, rather than a penalty had it been whistled just outside the box. But in the end, Josh Phelps, adjudged to have just found the right level with his physicality. New South Wales-born defender, actually signing with the Knights, though, from Statesboro, Georgia-based side, Tormenta FC. And he's increasingly forming an effective partnership with Ivan Franjic in that Knights backline. Morton. Franjic. Back to Morton, who looks for Golic. Greens put it out for a throw-in. Knocked down by the Knights. Sewell winds up, takes a touch, finds the net! Corey Sewell might have just sent the Melbourne Knights to the 7th round of the Victorian preliminary qualifying. He had time. He wound up and took a wicked touch. One that took it beyond Bon Scott. And all of a sudden, Corey Sewell has doubled Croatia's advantage and put the Bentleigh Greens in a hole that is going to be very difficult to climb out of as they make another change in the wake of that. The Greens, Gavin O'Reilly enters the fray as Strickland makes way. And now the Greens somehow, well, if they can get two in the next 28 minutes of regulation, plus whatever additional minutes we are granted by the fourth official, we will go to extra time and penalties if needed. There must be a winner tonight. Carrigan, that's a Baker. There's a throw. Nilo. Baker to Carrigan. Brejcevic. Every single player bar Bon Scott in the Knights half. But now, turnover. Can the Knights get something going? Hoare. Out to Albano on the left. Went behind him. Will give the Greens a chance to get back behind the ball. Gian Albano cutting inside, shooting. Trying to bend it back on that right boot. Couldn't bend it far enough as it goes out for a goal kick. Vicente sends it inside to the newly introduced O'Reilly. Gets it back, but the Knights swarming. Tails right up after taking a 2-goal advantage. Sewell, the man that gave them that advantage, to Albano. Back to Sewell, his cross blocked away. Albano claims. Gets a bit of a shepherd. But can't take advantage. Goal kick for the Greens. Nilo waving his arms for it, wanting it here right in front of our broadcast position on the flank. Instead, Scott goes short to Carrigan. Baker. Closed down by Albano, so he goes backwards. Looks like a few players, maybe one or two, receiving instructions on the Knights bench. So we'll see if they make any changes soon. Golic. Ball played in the Hoare direction. Up for grabs. Morgan claims. Nilo. Sewell at his back. Does very well. Does Sewell. Albano not so well. Turning it over. And Lacente's ball forward in the vague rook direction goes out. And here come changes for the Knights. Will be a double sub. So the Knights will have a short turnaround from tonight's game. Both sides will, in fact, but the Knights on Friday night, the difficult task of heading to Jack Edwards Reserve to take on the Oakley Cannons. Themselves in action in the Australian Cup tonight against Dandenong City. NPL 2 side, Dandenong City. So Giselle looks to be one of those players waiting to come on. The other one is Mohamed Sumayoro. He'll come on for Nepomuceno on that flank. Meanwhile, Giselle will replace Golic. So a handy addition off the bench. Sumayoro has 4 league goals to his name thus far in 2023. As you see, Giselle dropping into a deepish position, and Sumayoro trying to make a nuisance of himself early, applying the pressure, and it's enough to win a throw-in for his side. Meanwhile, a further couple of changes coming for the Bentleigh Greens, it looks like. Phelps sends it back to Oldfield, who just hoofs it. Looks like Maseo Jones and Joshua Jackson both preparing to come on for the Greens. So Riccardo Marchioli emptying his bench. Rook tries to whip a ball in, takes a touch. Sewell intervenes before it can bounce through to Nilo. Not sure if Riccardo Marchioli in the Greens dugout is emptying that bench in a kind of a desperate attempt to come back into this game, or he's trying to save legs for his side's league game this weekend. It's a huge one. It's a relegation 6-pointer against Moreland City on Saturday afternoon. Meanwhile, Gian Albano working against Ben Carrigan. Defender wins that battle well. That pass, however, not as done so well. But it will enable the Greens to make that change. Maseo Jones entering the game in replace of Marwan Nilo, who's already off over on this near side. And it will be Lacente who departs for Joshua Jackson. 2 appearances for the senior side in league play, but none have come since March. So perhaps shows you the injury problems confronting the Greens coming into this one. Meanwhile, Corey Sewell inside for Hoare. O'Reilly down there, as well as the newly introduced Jones. Get it out to Abendelwa, but so many white shirts in his vicinity. But Giselle's pass for White, picked out. Abendelwa hacked down from behind by Brumwell. That will be a free kick. Jackson Morgan just asking the question if that was maybe worth a piece of cheese from the referee. No going. Bentleigh loses the ball. Hoare, Sumayoro. Free kick. Morton, Giselle, to Franjic. Green's getting forward to apply the pressure, so Oldfield just puts his boot through it. Sumayoro and Brumwell giving chase. And as it deflected off Mitch Hoare, Sumayoro hadn't been able to get back to an onside position, so Green's ball. Carrigan. Mills. His pass can't find a way through. White claimed it for the Knights, but then the ball intended for Sumayoro beats him. Got fresh legs, but not quick enough to get onto that one for Mo Sumayoro. Just over 20 minutes of regulation remaining on the scoreboard here at Kingston Heath Soccer Complex. The score is now Bentleigh Greens 0, Melbourne Knights 2. Gian Albano's first half penalty joined by Corey Sewell's second half deflected strike. Morgan looking for Bentleigh. No more changes to make for the Greens. They've made all 4. Just 2 changes thus far for the Knights. Coach Ben Khan still has Felipe Sanchez and Trevor Semakula to call upon if he so desires. Meanwhile, Albano working against Jones. Albano, as he has on a few occasions, cutting inside onto that right boot, but yet again, radar slightly off and it goes out for a goal kick. And in the words of a tennis umpire, new balls please, as that one finds a home somewhere behind the goals. Mills, dropping deep to receive, was Rook. Jones was a bit wrong-footed, so by the time he tried to collect that ball, Sewell had booted it away. Central for Morgan. Jones. Sao Jones carrying it forward, looking for Bentleigh. Once again, he goes to battle with the much larger Josh Phelps. And in the end, goes out for a Greens throw-in. O'Reilly sends it back to Carrigan across to Mills. Jones can't keep it in. Sewell hurls it forward in the Brumwell direction. Headed clear. Jones looks up, gains a few metres on the touchline, sends it into the Rook. Brings it down, but Franjic gets across. Headed down to Baker, Morgan. South Sudanese international, getting it forward for Jackson. He can't burst his way through with the ball in tow, but Green showing a bit of energy, not making it easy on the Knights. Long ball out, claimed by Mills. Baker. Prečević. Over the top for Manasa Bentleigh. Central for Jackson. Thought about winding up. Thought better. Baker. O'Reilly. Jones. Nibbling at the greens without trying to take a massive chunk. Jones sends it in. Cleared away. Little flick on by Albano to break into space. Foot race between him and Carrigan. Gian Albano still going. Loves a run and shot. Does Gian Albano. Beats one, beats two. Albano just not able to get enough on the shot. The Knights now getting set back again in their defensive shape. Not quite the same ferociousness to their press as it was in the first half, but still a well-regimented defensive block for the Knights. Zabandalwa just avoids the sliding challenge. O'Reilly sends it in the Rook direction. Franjic intervenes again. Bentleigh Greens throw in. So Jones. Abandalwa chests it down. Sewell gets across. Puts it out. So a few metres gained by the Greens. Jackson tries to flick it on. Turnover forced, skied. And Oldfield claims and falls upon it. Phelps. Sewell. White got it to Sewell, who was booted forward. Hoare to Albano. Giselle. Players await in the middle. Back to Morton. He'll send it in. Knocked down. Booted clear, but Franjic has the opportunity to reload for the Knights. Deking the ball over the top. Samayono is going to give chase against Mills. So Mills just looks for a bit of territory. Skates underneath Giselle, having taken a touch off him. Jackson nods it back on for Jones. High ball. Ooh, it was pretty sure that was supposed to be a cross off the boot, but it's sliced away and Oldfield just had to regather himself and make sure it wasn't going in. As the Knights make another substitution, it will be Bramwell departing for Simakula. So as Bromwell jogs off, it does indeed look like his side will be progressing to the 7th and final round of preliminary qualification here in Victoria of this Australia Cup as they look to return to the national stages. And, of course, also advance in the Doherty Cup. Just mention, of course, the Knights. Well, they do have history of winning National Cup competitions, albeit it was a while ago. They won the 1994-95 NSL Cup during that period of dominance at Summers Street in the early 90s. Semakula to Phelps. Hall lays it off for Giselle. Giselle wants to spring Sumayoro in behind. Bon Scott alive to the danger. Morton. Back to Hoare. Giselle. Morton looking for Semakula. Semakula still going, and Brecevic in the end just using that much bigger body to shield the ball until it could find a way into the gloves of Bon Scott. Mills now, who's taken on a lot of responsibility for carrying the ball out of this Greens defence under pressure, but on that occasion he's going to cough it up. Still come the Knights, and then hopeful effort in the end there from White. Would have been spectacular. Doesn't come off as O'Reilly now sends it around the corner for Jones. Turnover. Hoare. Sewell. Giselle. Morton can't keep it in. The Knights, nonetheless, look set to make it double-digit games, undefeated now, 10 games without defeat since that April 1 loss to Avondale. Sewell heads it down to Albano. Is there a potential cherry on the Sunday for the Knights? Giselle. Out to Morton. He's got enough time. This pass was intended for Brecevic. He's going to find Scott instead. Sumayoro applies the pressure. Jones has been seeing a lot of the ball since he's come on, but that not one of his better touches. Hoare was looking for the run of Albano, but he hadn't been able to get forward yet, had the West Australian, so instead the Knights will move the ball around and get it onto the right flank. Morton to White, gets it back. Can have another go. Rook. Central, Abendelwa. Shot took a deflection and it's claimed by the four-time Victorian goalkeeper of the year, Chris Oldfield. But the Greens are going to get it right back as Morton's pass, intended for Sumayoro, is claimed by Baker. Semakula applying the pressure to Mills. Knights bench wanted a free kick for handball. Morgan battling for it. Appeals for a handball. Franjic was falling, hit his chest. Jones can have another throw in. Indifferent clearance, seized upon by Jones, but not much power behind that left-footed effort, and it was wide as well, and Oldfield falls upon it. Hoofs the ball forward, Jones heads it away. I'm going to let it get through to Albano. Instead, the Knights will have to play out. Phelps to Giselle, to Sewell. Closed down quickly by O'Reilly. Twisting and turning. And Jones, as he has done now on several occasions, just getting his body in the right positions to prevent Albano from stealing in behind. Simakula back to Sewell. And the Knights are going to make their final change. Albano can take a rest in these last 2.5 minutes of regulation plus added time. Felipe Sanchez will enter the fray. Albano just going to amble around the pitch after heading off at the nearest touchline. So Albano departs, having put the Knights ahead early doors with that penalty. Knights now just killing off time. They will be progressing to the 7th round of preliminary qualifying. Pretty safe to say at this point. One game away from a return to the national stages, Melbourne, Croatia. Morgan acting as the Knights ball kid there, I guess. Well, with 60 seconds of regulation and out of time, he's not giving up the ghost. Bentleigh Green's ball. Ball forward from Bon Scott's not going to find Jones. Absolutely no rush is Corey Sewell to collect and get us restarted here. Eventually hurls it in the Simakula direction. Green's ball. Bracevic to Mills. Diag in the Jones vicinity. Last coming off the Green's right wing back. 3 minutes of added time indicated by our fourth official, so 180 seconds. There are 60 seconds in a minute, not 90. So 180 seconds for the Knights to get through before their progression to the next round can be made official. Knights hoping to take a bit of momentum into their massive clash with the Oakley Cannons on Friday night. The Greens, well, they'll lick their wounds and prepare for a clash with Moreland City, who themselves were bundled out at this stage of the competition by NPL 2 side Northcote City last week. And that game, such a huge one. Both sides on 9 points, just past the halfway mark of the season. Desperate for a win. Jones sends it in. Just booted away. Sanchez, well, he's got the fresh legs, having only just come on, but no hope of chasing down that one. Sanchez trying to find a way through. Morgan takes it. Carrigan back to Scott. Scott won't have a chance to repeat his national stage heroics from a few years ago when he was with the Brisbane Strikers against Wellington Phoenix. Mills out to Baker. O'Reilly. Bentleigh has battled hard all night. Jones. Spilled by Oldfield. Claimed on the second occasion. Appeals for a back pass. Waved away. In a very interesting position for an indirect free kick right down there. Hoare turns to the corner, sends it to White. And the Melbourne Knights are one game away from the national stages of the Australia Cup, progressing also in the Doherty Cup. A goal in either half, Gian Albano with an early penalty, and then Corey Sewell's deflected effort. Enough to see them move past the Bentleigh Greens. Their hopes of another fairy tale run through the national stages of the Australia Cup are at an end. Their thoughts instead can turn to surviving the drop in the NPL men's Victoria season. For Ben Kahn's side, though, more good times rolling on. 10 games unbeaten now, 4th in the league, a chance to go 3rd if they beat the Oakley Cannons on Friday night. And it looks like, after some years outside of the finals in NPL men's Victoria and no real deep Australia Cup runs to talk about, the Melbourne Knights, well, a return to the national stages. Well, they're targeting for one in the national second tier anyway, but we might get a sneak preview here in 2023. That will have to wait, though, in the coming weeks and months. Right now, all we can say is that it is the Knights, Melbourne Croatia, that have taken a 2-0 lead here at 2-0 win, here at Kingston Heath Soccer Complex. My name has been Joey Lynch. Thank you ever so much for joining us on NPL.tv and the various Facebook pages streaming that game. Reminder that you can see both of these sides week in and week out in the NPL Men's Victoria competition on NPL.tv. It's a free to sign up. Tell your friends, tell everybody. But for now, whether you've been watching in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, or anywhere around the world, thank you ever so much for joining us. Thanks and success.